Hello, everybody. This is the UnTurkey show, the Thanksgiving show. Today, we're going to be making a 1 hour UnTurkey. So some of you may know about the UnTurkey. You may have seen a video about my UnTurkey. You may know that 25 years ago, I had a company that made a product called the UnTurkey. It was called Now and Zen. And we sold the UnTurkey. It was sold all over the country, and we were a competitor to Tofurkey. We were actually number 2. Tofurkey was number 1. But we had a lot of fans, and I sold the company basically in 2003, and they made the UnTurkey for a few years, and then they closed down. And the UnTurkey basically flew the coop. Now, there is a lovely couple that resurrected the UnTurkey. They created a website for the UnTurkey called unturkey.org. So you can go there and read the story about the UnTurkey and how fans across the country were really, really upset when the UnTurkey flew the coop. And they couldn't get their favorite unbird for the holidays anymore. So it is a I make it the weekend. Usually we have 20, 30, 40 people over, a big bash. This year, because of coronavirus, of course, we're keeping it really, really on the low down, just for the family. But in the past, this is a major ordeal to make the UnTurkey. We are live.
No, wait.
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 Oh. Am I starting all over again?
No, hold on. I just screwed it up.
Uh-oh.
No, wait, back camera. Okay. I don't know.
Okay. Are there comments? Do we know people are watching?
Oh, now we have comments. The comments weren't coming up.
All right. So we are live, and sorry about the pause. Maybe we'll edit that out later. So the UnTurkey is a major all-day ordeal, and I was thinking, how am I going to make this in 1 hour? So I devised sort of a shortcut method for making the bird itself. It's a Seitan-based UnTurkey, and we're going to try to pull this whole thing off in an hour, in terms of an hour of work. Of course, you have to bake it for an hour, so, but you can have a glass of wine, do whatever you want. We're going to just get started. I'm going to tell you more about the story as we proceed, but I got to get started because I have a limited amount of time. Now, this recipe comes in multiple parts. We're going to post a recipe on the air, but I'm going to start out by making the very famous or infamous UnTurkey seasoning. This is what gives the flavor to the UnTurkey. Melanie has put together all of the herbs and spices for me, beautifully arranged here, so you know exactly what's going in. But it starts out with 2 cups of nutritional yeast flakes. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of salt. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of garlic powder, the same of onion powder. And then we've got thyme. We've got celery seed. We have sage. We have rosemary. We have paprika, tarragon. We have marjoram, black pepper, turmeric, and ginger. Okay. Yes, 1 teaspoon. So there's less of that. The recipe will be posted. Beautifully arranged in sake cups. Luckily, I had enough of them. Now you know what I do on New Year's. I drink a lot of sake. Okay, so now I'm going to pulse this. That's it. Now that is my secret to making this dish. So now we're going to start on the gluten. This is going to go into the stuffing. It's going to go into the seitan, and it's going to go into the gravy, as well as the beautiful skin. I forgot to show you the UnTurkey. Right here, Cammie. Here is the UnTurkey. I made this last night. So as you can see, this is a beautiful concoction with a seitan, and then there's a skin, and inside it's stuffed with dressing, and then we make a gravy for it. So it is the whole shebang rolled up in one. So now let's go over to the food processor where we're going to make the easy seitan, which is baked in the oven. So we're going to start out with 2 cups of water and about 8 ounces of tofu. Now, try not to splash the water when you put that in there. And then we're going to add about a third of a cup, a half a cup of that seasoning. So let me grab the seasoning over here. And you can be a little loosey-goosey about this. All right, so that is a third of a cup. We're going to add more later on. And we're going to process this to process the tofu and create the base for the seitan. So this is just going to take a second to do. Okay, now we're going to make this, it's not a marinade, but it's this sauce that goes into the seitan to help it cook. So I'm going to start out with some oil. So I'm going to use about a third of a cup, a half a cup of oil. You don't have to be exact. Now, 2 sauce, and you want to get this ready before you add the seitan or the gluten. Okay, and then we're going to add more of this unseasoning. So we're going to add a half a cup this time. I want to make sure I get a good amount in there because that is going to flavor things. So now I'm going to stir this up with a long chopstick because that's what's handy. Okay, so this is what's different about the UnTurkey with this method. Now, the way I typically make it is I make a dough, I bake it first, and then I simmer it in this UnTurkey stock, which gives it, it just makes it the seitan really, really juicy and moist. So I got a cough because I got a little bit of the UnTurkey seasoning in my throat. But we're going to do a really easy minute. So I'm going to add 4 cups of vital wheat gluten. 2, 3, 4. And the reason it's important to have this ready before you do the seitan, make the seitan, is because if you stop the machine in order to make this, you won't be able to get the machine started again. So be sure to make this first. All right, so we're going to make the dough by combining it. And you can see it there coming. And you can just let that go for 30 seconds to a minute. Okay, it's going to start working really, really hard. And when it does, and you can hear the motor, we're going to add this stuff. And there we go. That is done. Okay, so here, this is what it's going to sort of look like. It's going to be sort of broken up like that. But the mixture is now sort of on the surface. It is going to create, the fact that it's not all one lump, one mass, will help to provide a little bit of texture. So now we're going to bake this. Okay, so I've got my pan right here. I'm going to line this. I'm going to line this with some, all right, let me move some things around. That's what I always have to do. We'll put it right here. I'm going to line this with some parchment, which I'm going to grab. You can line it with oil if you like, or you can line it with parchment, whichever is easier. And we're going to put the UnTurkey mass in here, like that, okay? And then we're going to do our best to kind of form it into a loaf. So as you can see, it's not one mass. The fact that the gluten is going in different directions will provide a little bit of texture to the meat itself and won't be, just one smooth thing. So this is all going to come together. Now we're going to add a little bit of water to this, cover it with aluminum foil, and stick it in the oven for about an hour. Now I can use this dirty container that had the stuff in it. That's fine. That'll help flavor it. You can add a splash of soy sauce if you like. If you want, you could add a little bit more just to even add a little bit more flavor. So this is just the vegetarian chicken broth, or you can just leave it as is. There's plenty of flavor going on in here. So you're just going to pour this on like that. We're going to cover the whole thing with aluminum foil. And we're going to stick it in the oven. Oh my God, did I say oven? I did say oven. All right, so I've got the Easy Bake Oven, the Miyoko's Easy Bake Oven, which is right over here until I get the real thing. I'm going to cover this up. What is that? Okay, I'm going to cover this. And we're going to pop it in one of these commercial ovens that Chris got me from work. So this is one of those things you see in cafes. And I think the it doesn't get as hot as a regular oven. So I'm turning it up to about 400, 450, but at home in a regular oven, if it's calibrated, 350, 375 should be fine. And that's going in there for an hour. Now, of course, we don't have that hour, so I did go ahead, because it's so easy, I went ahead and baked this up. We're going to stuff this one. But first, we have to make the stuffing. So let's come on over here. And, you know, Thanksgiving this year is, I don't know, I think it really, really dawned upon me how serious this whole pandemic is and how it's impacting everybody. And if, you know, I'm lucky to have Cammie and Serafina and my husband and my brothers coming up. So I have a small family that I can celebrate this with, but I'm just thinking about all the people that are, you know, on lockdown and just wondering, what are they going to do? This is a time when we all need more of that comfort. And of course, not just comfort, but, you know, we need easy recipes, because you don't want to spend all day cooking the UnTurkey the old-fashioned way. You know, if you see there's a video where I do make the UnTurkey. You can Google it on YouTube and you'll see a video of me making it my traditional way. And that is more or less, you know, an all-day endeavor. You can do it in parts. And I do have the full recipe coming out in my vegan meat cookbook that's coming out in May of next year. But this is the easy method. So you can take all these shortcuts. For example, instead of dicing onions for the stuffing, you can just buy diced onions. You can buy diced frozen onions. You can buy diced frozen carrots. I actually have carrots here that are chopped up, ready to go. But you can buy these frozen, or a lot of stores already have them chopped up. That makes it a lot easier too. So let's get a knob of butter into the pan. And this is Miyoko's butter, of course. And stuffing, what makes stuffing really, really good, I hate to say it, is having the right balance between the broth that you moisten the bread with and the fat. So this is not where you want to scrimp in terms of, you know, calories. Hate to say it, it is Thanksgiving. So I'm going to use a combination of oil and butter, and we're going to heat this up. So it's a good dose of butter and oil. And we're going to saute carrots, onions, and celery. You can get all fancy. You can add Brussels sprouts. You could add cubed butternut squash. You could add mushrooms, whatever you like. But this is the most basic, absolutely delicious, absolutely satisfying dressing. And it's because of the UnTurkey seasoning. So we're going to go ahead and add the onions. We're going to add the celery, and we're going to add some carrots, and we're going to saute these. They do not need to be absolutely soft either, because they're going to be stuffed in the UnTurkey and baked. So they just need to be sort of soft, which is why if you're using frozen vegetables, if you can get them, the freezing of the vegetable actually sort of is like parboiling or cooking them. So you don't even need to saute them. Basically, all you need to do is combine the frozen vegetables with the bread and the butter and the seasonings. That's all you're going to have to do. You don't even have to bother with the sauteing. But we do have, I said I'm going to get this done in an hour, and we do have enough time. So these are fresh vegetables, but go ahead and use frozen. You will not notice the difference. And, you know, and if you're cooking just for one or two people or a small family, like, you really don't want to spend, you know, more than an hour doing this, right? That's the way I look at it anyway. What are people making for Thanksgiving? Who's going to try this? I would love to hear. I'll give this a splash of sea salt. Okay. So we used to sell these all over the country. It was the only fully stuffed bird with a skin. And I'm going to tell you about the skin. The skin is made out of yuba, which is the skin that forms on soy milk. And so this is how it's often sold in Asian grocery stores, fresh bean curd sheets. You can also buy it dry online, so you can access it. Some people have said, well, They couldn't get yuba, so they started using spring roll wrappers. The rice paper also works. It's just not as good. Because let me just show you how the skin is. When it's soft, so now it's cold, it really is pliable like skin. And when you bake it, it gets crispy and still sort of, I don't know, I hate to say it, meaty and chewy like skin. I mean, this stuff is just like the bomb. I'm going to pop some in my mouth because I can't. You want some? I know Cammy likes it too. It's so flavorful. I mean, everybody loves skin. Every time I serve it, people want more skin. So, all right. You really don't need to bake this very long or cook it very long. It's only been a couple of minutes, and really that's it. Now, you can make your own bread. You know, I'm one of these people, I hate buying prepared things because I feel like I'm cheating, like prepared pie crust. I never, ever do that. Even something like this, like cube bread, I don't normally do it. I usually start out with a loaf of something like a ciabatta, and I make my own croutons out of it. So you can go ahead and do this if you want to spend a lot of time cutting. But if you're trying to do this all in an hour, go ahead and buy yourself just some dry croutons like this or sourdough stuffing. This one is just, it doesn't have any seasonings in it. You only can get the kind with seasonings. That's okay too. So here we go. We've got some juices being released from the veggies. So we're going to go ahead and add, this is 10 ounces. That's probably about enough. Okay, so I'm using the whole bag. And we just want to coat the bread. I'm going to turn the heat off. You don't really need it on at this point.
Jen wants to know how many servings the UnTurkey makes.
Oh my gosh. Well, it depends on how hungry, you know, how many other dishes you're serving. But that makes at least 8 servings, maybe even more. And then there's the leftovers. And you can make UnTurkey noodle soup and UnTurkey pot pie and all this other stuff. So, all right. So I think I'm going to add a little bit more butter to this. Now, the old-fashioned way of making UnTurkey, where you simmer the UnTurkey on the stove for about an hour or so, renders this stock that is absolutely delicious. And that stock is what you use to make the gravy. So the gravy we're going to make isn't going to be quite as good as that because when you simmer the seitan in the stock, that actually contributes flavor to the stock itself. What we're going to be doing is making sort of an instant stock, instant gravy using just the UnTurkey seasoning that we made. So I can do, let me just concentrate on this. I'm just melting a little bit more butter. Meanwhile, I'm going to go back and get my dirty dish, which we can use over and over again. It's still got a little bit of flavor in there, and I'm going to add more flavor to it. So I'm going to use about 2 cups of broth. This is sputtering. Okay, and then we're going to add more of this wonderful broth, or the seasoning, which is going to make a broth. And there's my instant broth, which I'm going to season this with. So I've got a little bit more butter, and I'm coating the bread in the fat first. You want to coat the bread in the fat before you add the broth. If you just add the broth first, you end up with soggy stuffing instead of this perfect balance of, you know, that buttery sensation with bread crumbs or bread cubes, croutons that are beautifully moist from the stock. So now we're going to add this. Okay, now we're going to add a little bit more. You can taste it and see if you want to add a little bit more a few more seasonings such as celery seeds, sage, etc. This should be pretty tasty by itself. I'm going to give it a taste. And then we're going to form the UnTurkey. And Add a little bit of rosemary to this, I think.
We have rosemary in here.
Do we?
Yeah.
Well, this is what Melanie pulled out. Oh, you know that rosemary's not good. It's all kind of flavorless. This looks a little better. I have rosemary in the garden too, but we're going to do this. You can add a little bit of extra sage. You can add celery seed, which is really great. A little bit of extra celery seed. Let me do that. Okay, do we have celery seed? I know we do. Celery seed. All right. So I'm going to add a little celery seed. And we can add a little bit extra sage. I know I have sage too. Somewhere there's sage. Here it is. All right. So that's powdered sage. I really do like sage leaves, but that's what I got right now. So I'm going to go ahead and mix all of this up. The stuffing is hot, but it is ready. Do you see how perfectly moist it looks? But it's not mush. And adding the fat beforehand really does help preserve the integrity of the bread and not have it turn into mush. Okay, so let me just taste it. All right. You want to make sure that the bread is perfectly moist. You don't have any tough bread or, any hard chunks of bread. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Oh my God, it's good though. It's really buttery too, which is so nice. I'm adding a little bit more water. You can add more broth. Okay, I think that is probably perfect. So now we're going to prepare the skin, and then we're going to start on assembling the UnTurkey. So this is really, really fast, I think. Okay, let me just move this stuff here. We are going to use that again. So here is what yuba looks like. I always joke about it because it kind of looks like an old raincoat, like an old yellow raincoat. And the reason it's this round is that it's made in drums, like a 55-gallon drum. You've got your soy milk in there. And as the soy milk heats and it forms a skin, the skin is lifted off the soy milk and then it's hung over like a bamboo pole to dry out. So this is what this is. It's actually soy milk skin. That's how you make this. All right, so I'm going to separate this. This was sold frozen. There we go. And you need about 2 of these sheets. So there was another kind that Melanie bought. Of course, this is a Japanese style yuba. And unfortunately, we can't use this because it would make really, really ugly skin. It's still the same kind, but it's all kind of stuck together and wrinkled. So it'd be very, very hard to cover the UnTurkey in that. So if you do buy this by accident, you can use it in like a stir fry. You can put it into soups, that sort of thing. But for making the UnTurkey, you want the kind where you get a nice big sheet like that. So now I'm just going to moisten it briefly like this. Okay. And I'm squeezing it out. It's pretty pliable. If you use the dry kind, you're going to have to put water in a pan and soak it for about 5 to 10 minutes until it's completely pliable. Okay, so that's 1 sheet right there. I'm going to use 2 sheets. So I'm going to move this over here for a second. What I need is a bowl. This is a good bowl. Now, what I'm going to be making is this marinade, a basting liquid. So I'm going to start again with more of the seasoning. And into this, we're going to add white wine, about a ½ a cup of white wine, and an equal amount of oil. So once again, here's my oil, a ½ a cup of oil. And this is my basting liquid. And this is what's going to be coating the outside of the UnTurkey. Just going to whisk that. All right, so now let me get it all situated. Where did my white pan go? I had a white pan that I was going to bake it in. I put it in the oven. All right, so we're gonna have to use this one. This is the one that I'm supposed to be using anyway. So I'm gonna bake the UnTurkey in here. So I'm gonna take this out, and we're gonna take this, and I'm gonna dip it in here, and I'm gonna squeeze it out because I want it to coat the yuba entirely and just sort of flavor it. Now, if you want to do it, this is the way I do it. It's just so much easier. The way I did it initially, and brush it ever so carefully, and then I realized I do that. So, okay, so I'm going to put this down right here in the middle, like that, and I'm going to move these out of the way.
People would like to know, where can you buy this kind of yuba?
You can buy it at Asian grocery stores. It's sold in the freezer, or you can buy the dry kind that's like this, usually online. Okay, so now I'm going to mound. How am I going to do this? I don't have enough space. I have too many things out, just because I'll get my thingamajig. Well, what is this thing called again? Kitchamajig. Here, just because I have too many things here. All right, so I'm going to just pile my stuffing right in the middle here. Thank you. Now, if you don't want to use it all, you can bake some of this in a separate pan, but why not use it all up? And you can, the entire UnTurkey can have stuffing in it, which is so fun when you're carving it up, and you can say to someone, a little dressing on the side, and then you pull it out of the middle. It's kind of fun, Oh, thank you, Melanie. Okay, so I've got a little bit more room there, because I do need to cut my UnTurkey and show you. Okay, so, all right. So the stuffing also helps to create the sense of the UnTurkey being large. I'm going to move this back here, or the shape of the turkey. So I need my sharp knife. What happened to my knife? I did have it. Was this one? Has this been sharpened? Yes. All right. So now I'm going to cut the UnTurkey, and the way I'm going to do it is this way. No, I'm not going to cut it that way. I'm going to cut it side to side. If you find that when you baked it, it's still a little raw in the middle, that's okay, because you're going to be baking it again anyway. So this gets baked twice. So that's what the UnTurkey looks like. This one, it has been fully cooked, as you can see. But if it looks a little rubber bandy, that's okay. Now I'm going to put this over the top like that. And if you can get this kind of ridge, here I am talking with my mouth full, that's great, because that kind of gives it sort of a, well, I don't really want it to have a turkey look. Maybe you just want it to look like a loaf. But there you go. Now, okay, trying to get it as nicely packed as possible. And now you're going to add one more sheet of yuba. Do the same thing that you did before. Would you mind packing this one back up? So I'm going to dip it in the water just briefly. If you let it soak too long, it gets kind of mushy, and you don't want that. So you want to just let it get wet enough that you can moisten it, and it's still pliable. And now this time, if you want, rather than dipping it in here, you can just, well, I'm going to dip it a little bit, just along the edges. Oh, what the heck. Just dip the whole thing. It's easier. Okay. And I still have more of that lovely, lovely basting liquid. You're going to be baking this, and you're going to baste it again. All right. So now I'm going to just tuck this whole thing. Now, this is a pretty small baking dish, but I did have Melanie prepare some potatoes, because what you can do is, while you're baking this, you can surround the turkey with little fingerling potatoes or cube potatoes or whatever, and bake the potatoes at the same time. So So you want to get this nice and tight like that. Get back. Yep. Actually, in this one over here. Okay. Gosh, this is, I don't know how much time we've spent doing this, but this is coming together quickly. So I do have some potatoes over here. I think I need a bowl for these. So I can just throw some of these potatoes. I'm going to season these with a little bit of salt and olive oil and just get it. You can use smoked salt. That would be really cool too. In fact, I think I have some smoked salt in here somewhere. Somewhere. Okay, where's my smoked salt? Oh, where did it go? All right, I don't know where it is. Oh, here's some. Okay. So if I want to do this, you can just bake it just like that. You could also bake potatoes and some carrots. That would be really good. And just surround the UnTurkey with it and just roast the whole thing. And then you've got, a side vegetable just to go, instead of, you could also have mashed potatoes, but if you decide you're going to go with roasted potatoes, that is also a great alternative. So get my potatoes here and I'm just going to pile it up. This is a small pot dish, as I mentioned, so we won't be able to make it look so pretty, but get yourself a nice roasting pan and surround the UnTurkey with some potatoes and carrots and bake it all up. We're just going to squeeze it down there right now, this time. All right, let me get the aluminum foil on there. I'm going to stick it in the oven. Thank you.
Melissa says, looks like it smells amazing in there.
It does smell amazing. I just love UnTurkey season. When I get to smell these, it's a very familiar smell for us in our family because I've been making this UnTurkey now since the mid 1980s. So it's been, how long is that? 35 years since I went vegan. And it all started in my Tokyo apartment when I had some friends who were Japanese who said they never had turkey before because they don't eat turkey in Japan. They wanted me to make turkey. And I said, well, I'm a vegetarian or I'm a vegan. I can't make turkey. So I came up with this crazy idea of making gluten, which was, in Japan, they've been eating Seitan for a long time, the Buddhist monks did, and yuba, and I came up with this idea for a turkey, and that's when it was born. I published the recipe in my first cookbook, The Now and Zen Epic, here in 1990. So I've been making this for years. And I don't know about you guys, but one of the questions that comes up all the time every Thanksgiving or every holiday season by vegans is, I don't know, how to eat. I don't want to go to my family's house because they always have a dead bird and blah, blah, blah. Well, I got out of that because from the time that I turned into an adult, I think when I was 18 or so, I decided to prepare all the Thanksgiving meals. So I have never, I've always invited people to my house, whether it was a tiny Tokyo apartment or San Francisco or wherever I was living. My family would always come to me and I would prepare the entire Thanksgiving meal. I've never, ever had to deal with, what do I do, sitting at a table with a dead bird. I haven't done that since I was a kid. So I feel very fortunate. And it's such a wonderful way to introduce people to the bounty of veganism. Because a lot of people think, well, what do vegans eat for Thanksgiving? They must just eat salad. And so make that giant spread, invite people over and just share with them the bountiful table, vegan table. Okay, so I only have one oven right now, so I can't get them both in here. You already saw how this looked, so I'm going to just pop this in the oven. So you can, in fact, I'm going to take this off. So the way you're going to bake this is you're going to bake this for about 45 minutes as is. And then you're going to take the aluminum foil off and bake it for about 15 minutes to allow the yuba to brown. But we're going to pretend that it's been in there for 45 minutes already because I want you to see how this color changes. Okay, I'm going to turn the temperature down. And while we make the gravy, we're going to let the yuba brown and hopefully it'll be this beautiful golden brown color. Now, people have asked me, can I use rice paper if I can't get yuba? So this is what it is. Spring roll paper, rice paper, same thing. You can use it, same thing. You're gonna just, it's just not quite as good. And of course it's gonna look like patchwork because these are small. So it'll look, but you're gonna have to moisten this for about 3 or 4 minutes to be very, very pliable. And then you can dip it in the basting. We'll just let that sit for a minute and that'll become moist in a few minutes. Then you dip it in the basting sauce and you can cover your turkey with it. It will not have the same texture. It's not quite as good, but it is somewhat skin-like. So it's better than not having a skin. All right, so now let's go on to make the gravy. Gravy is oh so simple too. Gosh, you know, I don't even think it's been an hour. And so if you think about it from the time we started, and if you're buying frozen vegetables that have already been diced and the croutons and everything, you could probably throw this entire UnTurkey together in terms of hands-on time in 40, 45 minutes or so. And then you can just pop it in the oven and that's it. And you can go on to make your salad and your mashed potatoes and whatever, green bean casserole, whatever else you're making. All right, so I'm getting the pan hot. And I think we're posting the recipes too. I don't know what happened to the oil. All right, so we're going to start out by adding some oil to this. And we're going to make a roux. Now, you can make an oil-free dressing, gravy, if you like, and I can tell you about how to do that. But I do need to come over here and get a measuring cup. So I'm going to put some flour in there to make a roux. And let's see. Oh, that looks perfect. And we're just going to cook this for a couple of minutes until it gets nice and sort of nutty brown. And we're going to go back to our dirty Pyrex container that we keep using over and over again. And we're going to make that instant stock again with our UnTurkey seasoning. Now, what's really important about gravy and avoiding lumpy gravy is pouring in hot stock. Don't use cold stock. If you add hot stock, it will turn into gravy immediately. If you use a cold broth or water, that's how you end up getting lumpy gravy. So don't do that. Okay, so I'm making a vegetable broth with this. And that's going to be for the gravy. All right, so this is beginning to boil away.
Someone wants to know why you aren't using your butter in the gravy.
You can use the butter too. You can use the butter. You can use the oil. I just don't think the butter adds a huge amount of flavor to this, but you certainly can use the butter. I mean, it does add flavor. The butter makes it better, but you can do this too. All right, you want me to use butter? I'll use butter. I'll add some butter to this. So I'm also getting a low on butter because we forgot to grab some. So I wanted to make sure. I had selfish reasons for that. So the roux is going to change color a little bit. It's going to get a little whiter initially. I'm going to add a little bit more flour. Because I added some butter. And how long is it? How long? Tell me. I mean, how are we doing on time? I mean, I think we're doing pretty well, aren't we?
4:40.
4:40. Okay, 40 minutes. I'm telling you, it's 45 minutes from start to finish with this. And I've done a lot of yakking. So, you know, without yakking, I might have been able to do this in 30 minutes. So there we go. So you don't have to slave all day for Thanksgiving.
I think your yakking compensates for most people looking at the recipes before.
Okay, all right.
So about the same time.
Okay, so this is going to begin to look a little dry, and that's perfect. So
some people are wondering if you can use cornstarch instead of flour.
yes, so you don't want to use cornstarch if you're making a roux like this. You want to use flour. Some gluten-free flours work. The alternative, if you want an oil-free one, is just start out with the broth. And then you add at the very end potato flour, not potato starch, potato flour. And the potato flour will thicken it up like gravy, and you can have yourself an oil-free gravy. So I often do that for weeknights here. If I'm making something where I want a gravy and I don't want to use the oil, I'll just use potato flour. Okay, so into my roux goes my hot liquid. And it will thicken up immediately like that. So now I can add more liquid. It's not going to be lumpy anymore. So I'm going to add, I'm just going to add water for right now. You could add chicken broth as well. You could add the Better Than Bouillon, but we're going to season it more with the this is what you get when you don't measure. I did not measure. But I do have the exact recipe printed that is getting that will be shared. Okay, so now we're also going to season this with some white wine, which really brings a whole different layer of flavor to it, and some soy sauce. You got soy sauce right over here. You have this nice, smooth, shiny gravy. All right, let me give it a taste. Yum. That's good. I'm going to add a little bit more of my seasoning. You know, I can taste the butter. The butter did make it better. Butter did make it better. And where's my vino? My vino bianco. And this is my traditional Thanksgiving gravy. Oh my gosh, that we've been eating for years. Absolutely years. Right, Cammie? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if it's too thick, you can always thin it out with a little bit more water or broth. As I mentioned, if you make the full-on recipe where you simmer the seitan, you're going to have this glorious broth that makes the absolutely the best gravy. Absolutely superlative. So this is a shortcut gravy, but I think that's kind of it. I think we've kind of made, it's still pretty good. You know what I'm going to do? Take a little bit of gravy. I have a little bit of stuffing left in my pan.
Cranberry relish.
Cranberry relish. That's something else that I like to make. You can make what is cranberry relish? It's something I make in the food processor with raw cranberries. I add like an onion, Dijon mustard, orange rind, orange juice, some sugar, salt, and it's raw. And I prefer it actually to a cooked cranberry sauce. It's a lovely pink color. So that's another one of my little favorite things. Gosh, okay, so that's the gravy. We made the stuffing. We made the skin. Okay, here's the, there we go. So you as well, and you can wrap this on the UnTurkey and bake it up as well. So that is your alternative skin if you can't get yuba. All right, let's see how the UnTurkey is doing. I don't know if we've given it enough time because this is going too fast. So this is my 1 hour UnTurkey. I told you guys it could be done. You don't have to slave all day in the kitchen. All right, it's not quite brown yet. It takes a little bit more time. Now this is where after it's baked for about, when you take it out of the oven after 45 minutes, because the yuba will turn really, really dry. So this is where you need to get a basting brush. And I'm going to thin this out a little bit because it's a little too thick for basting. I add a little bit more wine to it. There we go. Let's go back over here. And you're going to baste it like that and pop it back in the oven until it's a beautiful golden brown. But gosh, I think we kind of ran out of things to do. So are there any questions? Because at this point, I'm ready to twiddle my thumbs, make that green bean casserole, some mashed potatoes, and I don't know what else, Cammie.
Pumpkin bread rolls.
Pumpkin bread rolls. That's another thing we eat. Pumpkin bread rolls. That there's a recipe for that in my homemade vegan pantry. It is one of our favorites. And pumpkin pie, of course. I think I make a pretty killer pumpkin pie. What else, Cammie?
Last time you made the ginger sweet potato.
Oh yeah, I did make that on the last week's adult baby food episode with Marissa Miller-Wolfson of Vegucated. So I think I'm going to relax. We got another week before Thanksgiving. We're all going to be shopping, maybe online. We're going to be cooking, but try to take it easy. Don't overdo it this time. Try to enjoy it. We will get back to normal times. We will get back to a time when we can have friends around the table again. We just have to be patient, I think. This isn't going to last forever. We will get through this together. Next week, I'm going to be doing some more Thanksgiving recipes, some holiday recipes, and we'll be making some holiday dish reels as well. So until then, checking in to see if there are any comments or questions.
Seitan, I'm going to show the graphics of the recipes. So if you want to take a screenshot of the recipes, stay on after we end this.
Okay. So the recipe will be posted. Cammie's going to post it. But until then...
on this video.
On this video. It's going to be on this video. So we're going to be here same time, same place. We'll see you next Wednesday for a little bit more holiday cheer. And until then, please take care. Stay safe. Try to stay sane. All right, guys. See you.